Yeah, man. You ever been middle-aged, hairlines thinning, starting to see a bald spot in the back of your head, just been married what feels like a lifetime? It's only 10 years, but it feels like as long as you've ever been alive. Can't even remember the name of your ex-wife. That's how long you've been living this life. You got kids. Kids are getting old enough that they're getting tired of your bullshit. Kids want to do their own. They don't give a shit about what Pops wants to do. You ever been that old? You ever been that fucking old in your life? And you're like, should I play Dark Souls? You ever been, as my boy Zach would say, have you ever been divorced dentist old? You ever been coffee breath comedian old? That you're like, I wonder if I could play video games. I wonder if I still got it. I've been playing video games a long time, but not consistently. I played them as a child, and they were terrible. Mega Man 2 is the hardest fucking game that has ever existed. I dare you to go try and play it today. You think Dark Souls is hard? I dare you to go take all your Cuphead skill set and go just run through Mega Man 2. I played video games as a kid, and then girls got real pretty to me. Just out the blue, I just find myself thinking about them. Just thinking about holding their hands, about wondering how their hair smells, imagining their whole lives together. Yeah, you know, with pretty girls. And I stopped playing video games, man, for a long time. The only thing I consistently played was Zelda. You know, every 3 or 4 years there'd be a new Zelda, and I would get the console, and I would get the game, and I would beat that game because I got a record. Got to maintain my record. I'm the guy who's beat every Zelda game, and I got to beat this game, which is made for children. You know, ages 8 to 13. I showed them. Boys, a 27-year-old, I showed them. I still got it. I could still beat a Zelda game. When I was a kid and you got a game, you had to beat it. And, you know, that's almost like a Catholic guilt thing. Like, I'm not Catholic, but the way they talk about Catholic guilt, that's how I feel about, like, if I get a video game and I don't finish it, I beat myself up over it. I'm like, you know, it's like finishing all the food on your plate. You know, you're not getting another game till you beat this motherfucking game. Well, the other day, I bought a PlayStation 4 because they were like $100. And I now have a stack. I have 15 games. Just stacked up, ready to play. And what I've learned in my old age is I don't have time. You know, I don't have the time that I once had to sit there and just play a game for like 10 to 12 hours a night. Every night. You know, just chipping away at whatever thing I couldn't get through that doesn't exist as an adult. As an adult, I might have 3 or 4 hours here and there. You know, a couple nights a week, maybe. So, if I'm playing a game, there's a good chance, you know, if I'm not into it, I'm going to forget about it, or I'm going to get frustrated, or, you know, I've got right now, like, 4 games that I'm in the middle of. So, I'll probably never play again. And one of these games, the one that I've stayed consistent with, is Dark Souls. Now, I'm here to preach the gospel, the same gospel that everybody has preached, but I'm here to preach it as a boomer, as a middle-aged man. For those of you who think you ain't got it, to tell you that you do, but also to tell you what's in there. Like, what's what's that whole thing about? I look for Dark Souls essays, and like, they're just not what I'm looking for. Video game essays is a wonderful market that is wide open, and some people, they get it, and when they nail it, man, they nail it hard, and it is fantastic. But those videos are few and far between, and I am not going to hit the nail today. I don't have the literature books. I haven't even finished the game. All right, I'm at what they call the second half. But I wanted to talk about Dark Souls. My first Souls game was Elden Ring. It's a long time Zelda fan. I'm like, this looks Zelda-esque. This is, when I was a kid and you fantasize about a Zelda movie, or like, what is the coolest game they could ever make in their 3D Nintendo 64 graphics? You would hope it would look so real. Elden Ring is that. But it is not fucking around. The monsters in this game move like anime characters, and you move like you, or like me, like a middle-aged man in a suit of armor who needs a 5-hour energy. I'm rolling, I'm popping up in a monster. I'm like, hey man, hey, time out. But there is no timeout. It's we're gonna start with the downside. This is one of the worst things about Dark Souls, is there is no pause button. It just doesn't exist. Zelda, I didn't appreciate how gracious, how much on the side of the player, how cheaty for the player they are, until I played Elden Ring. Because in Zelda, if you were getting your goddamn ass whooped, you can pause and eat some food in the pause screen and just magically get all your health back. In Elden Ring, there is no pause. If you're getting your ass whooped, you're either going to fight back or you're getting your ass whooped. And that's just the situation. It's, run, hide, or die. It's the same as a mass shooting. If a shooter comes into your office, it's Dark Souls rules. You run, hide, or fight. And, there are things to get your health back. In some games, if you just don't get hit long enough, your health magically comes back. So it's very convenient. Makes the game very, very playable and easy. In some games, you can eat food. And the food is just everywhere. Everywhere. In Dark Souls, you have a flask. You got 5 shots of get some of your health back. And in order for you to do that, you gotta fucking stand still for 10 seconds. And if you're in the middle of getting your ass whooped, the boss will not respect your Gatorade break. They will slap that shit out of your hand and stick a sword, a crystal encrusted, bleed and curse infected sword straight up your asshole, and they will rape. They will rape the shit out of you. Now, I don't want to scare you off. Hold on. If you're one of these divorced dentists, if you're 40 white and failed at life, hold on. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you start some games, you don't finish them. You feel like this is like, I'm just wasting money. I should probably just do anything else with my time. Hold on. Entertainment as a middle-aged man is like, I really don't want to have my time wasted. I only have so much. There's only so much time available. And I see, there's a lot of people complaining about media like it's a whole industry to be mad at how bad things are. But I think these people, they lose sight of, or maybe they don't know, that entertainment, it's a buffet, not a short order cook. All right, this is something I learned growing up. I had all kinds of shit that I liked. Some of it occasionally got made into movies. It was never perfect. This is not one moment in my life where I was like, from A to B to C, Everything about this fucking is amazing. This rocks. I'm so happy. You go in there and you just enjoy as much of it as you can. All right. Or you stop being into the thing that you were into. That happened to me. I used to love Spawn, like comic book Spawn. Now I was a child, so I did not understand what a shameless cash grab. I bought into this idea, which was probably a lie sold to me by one of my 8-year-old lying ass friends, because that's what kids do. They just sit there. They're trying to figure out the world. They're not trying to lie, but that's what they do, is they just, I actually heard, the blah, 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 bitty, blah, and you're like, that makes too much sense. The Q is real. QAnon is an 8-year-old's lie. Anyway, I love Spawn, and I thought it was this story with continuity, and then you find out that, continuity happens every 50 issues, and the author's like, well, actually, continuity sucks dick, and I'm really just here to wash, rinse, and repeat the same formula as many times as I can. This is really just a ruthless cash grab for me, but I'm independent, so support me. It's such a missed opportunity to not have Spawn be like Berserk or fucking One Piece, where it's there's amazing stuff in there, for it to just be so hollow when it has all the earmarks, all the salad dressings, all the fixins of amazing independent, productions, but it lacks the heart and the substance. But that is most of it. There's very few true and blues. That's why you got to appreciate the Red Bars of the world. Is when someone, does it and they mean it, you can't help but be energized and excited by someone actually. You love it. You want people to mean it. Now, Dark Souls is not as hard as you think it is. It's literally, you think it's the first game in the series. It's the third game in the series. It starts off with Demon Souls 1 and 2. Don't worry, this isn't going to be lore heavy. I, quite frankly, do not understand the lore. That is, if you're into that, I don't know what to tell you, man. You just need to spend more time with your kids or have kids. You're alone. If you're into the lore, if you understand the intricacies of the Dark Souls lore, you've spent too much time by yourself. You need to assess your life decisions and make some changes. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but alone and into Dark Souls lore is not the way to do it. You might as well be into Jesus or, whatever the quote unquote NPCs are into, those people you look down on as fucking idiots. Here's your lore. If you know lore of just about any kind, what the fuck was I talking about? Boomers, pay attention. This is one of those things. I have a friend. I'm not going to tell you his name. But when he was young, when he was a kid, his father owned an independent video rental store, like a Blockbuster or a Family Video, whatever you have in your particular area. He had one of those, which meant my friend had access to every game and every system that ever did exist. His dad had to buy them. He was going to leave money on the table. And so he got to play them. He got to play them first. And then when the store closed, he got to have all of that. They liquidated it. But before they liquidated it, he got to take whatever he wanted. like a Nickelodeon Double Dare. He said, here's a basket. You got 30 minutes. Whatever you put in that basket, you can keep. It's a Mr. Beast challenge. And he said, I will keep the entire video game section. Everything. This friend of mine loves video games. And he had a plan at one time. A plan for your life. He planned to play every video game. I talked to him recently. He's now just as motherfucking middle-aged as me. And I was like, hey man, you playing in these Dark Souls? And he said no. He said no, I refuse. I've heard how terrible they are. I've heard how hard they are. It's like, if I play a game, he wants to just relax. It's like, I want to just put on a popcorn movie. Don't shove your politics down my throat. Don't make me think. I've gotten to a point where I'm part of the system, like it or not. I'm at the job I will have. I've learned all the sneaky ways that the system works, and I've realized I'm powerless to do anything about it. So at this point, I just want as much bread in the circus as I can get my hands on. And, I appreciate that you guys are young. You're on fire. You want to change the world. That's great. But I, as a person with a bad back, as a person with responsibilities, I just want to have fun. When I was younger, I always felt like I was just like tailgating the end of the world. I was like, oh, the whole world's on fire. Fuck this shit. But, you have a couple kids, all of a sudden you don't want the world to be shit because you don't want them to have a hard time. That's 90% of being a parent is like, how do I help you avoid all of my mistakes? Whether you're prepared for it or not, whether you would make those mistakes or not, I'm going to talk to you in thorough detail about every mistake I have ever made. If you're gonna make mistakes, but let's hope, fingers crossed, they're gonna be new mistakes. Our genetic line is on a up curve. We are not gonna, what they call generational curses. You just pass that trauma on from one generation to the next. My DNA is in its life cycle where it's like, we're not even, you don't even have to worry about that. You don't even have to think about the fact that happens to kids. We're going to focus on new things not happening. And it's rough because it's like you almost want to train your kid to be Batman, but then it's like, you don't want to make him afraid of the world. Anyway, Dark Souls. My friend, he's heard how hard these games are, and he does not want to be frustrated. He's like, I want to relax. I want to run around with a big gun. I want to shoot the fucking face off of people. I want to see some jiggly tits. Baby. Just want to relax. Life is hard enough. And he's heard that these Dark Souls, there's this rumor that it's like, once you die, you lose half of your health bar until you kill the person that killed you. Now, I'm happy to report this is a fallacy. That is a mechanic that existed in the not Dark Souls, Demon Souls, the demons. In the Demon Souls version of these games, parts 1 and 2, some such mechanic similar to that existed. Now, in Dark Souls, there are creatures. There are these frog-ass creatures. They're in Dark Souls, they're in Elden Ring. I haven't played all the games, but they're in those 2 that I've played. And if they breathe their stinky-ass coffee breath on you, it looks like cement. If they cement you with their fucking bad breath, you will get cursed and you will lose half of your health. Now, these creatures are not everywhere. They're only in like a very small, spots. A couple of spots. If you do get cursed, and this has happened to me a couple times, you can go buy a spell. It's a little tedious, but you can go buy a spell. You can get rid of that shit. You can put some ointment on it. You can put some tussin on the curse. Curse will be lifted. You will get your health back. That is fallacy number 1. I would like to eliminate. Fallacy number 2. They're the hardest games that have ever existed ever. And they're not. They're not that bad. What I love about Dark Souls, much like One Piece, has a huge meme community behind it. A community that is just making funny shit all the time. And it's not political. It's not about nothing except for about the game. They got their own end phrases. You don't have to be a 12th level lore scholar to get it. In fact, it's mostly made for the masses. And one of these memes is get good. The game's too hard. It's not too hard. You just have to get good. I'm here to tell you, as a middle-aged man, you don't have to be that good. You just don't. My wife is playing Horizon New Dawn. And Red Bar Radio's wife, Jules, at one point was playing Horizon New Dawn. And she said about it, she said, I don't think I'm that good at video games. I think I'm just normal amount of good. And she gets through it just fine. She was making the point of like, there's a lot of people patting themselves on the back like, pretty fucking good at video games. And she's like, I don't know. It's just seems like if you're just persistent, the games are made to be played. The game wants you to win. That's how Dark Souls is. It's honestly not that bad. One of the games I started and stopped was the new God of War. I love the God of War games. It's a nice, fun slasher, button masher, ultra violence, good entertainment, good use. I don't want to say good use of time, but a fun use of your time. It's a circus and bread use of your time. So I got the new ones. The Viking edition. I have a friend that helped make the characters on that, who did some character designs that you will see in the late night with Little Fat BX. They have been seen. The demon, the iPhone that was created, that cost me $500. That design for that character. This guy and I put together a comic book pitch. I was once upon a time aspiring, and I hired him to be my artist. Or as Robert Kirkman would say, the key to success is trick a talented artist into working with you. Lie to an artist. I once tricked him into working with me. And so the octopus characters, the iPhone character, they come from a guy who created characters for God of War and Revolve, some other game he worked on. His name is Stephen Oakley, if ever you want to look him up. Very talented. He does art draws. Very cool guy. Anyway, I tried God of War because I love these games. Beat the first 3 of them. Now I got this PlayStation 4. Now I'm about to ball out on these graphics 10 years after the fucking system came out. And I got bored of it pretty goddamn fast. Almost immediately. I will finish it. I got that Catholic guilt. I will finish these games. But I'm going to finish Dark Souls first. I got a whole agenda. Like Marvel's announcing their movies. I'm going to beat Dark Souls 1. Which I have 2 other Souls-like games I've started and not completed. Elden Ring, I got all the way to the last boss. I could beat his first phase, but his second phase, his second character, I haven't beaten him. I've only played him about 5 times. As I was playing him, I stopped So I go work on the first season of The Late Nut with Little Fat PX. Like a month later, I come back. I don't remember how to play the game. I no longer care. So I never finished playing that game. And I will probably never play the DLC. Or if I do, it'll be after a complete replay of the entire Elden Ring game. If you're wondering what Souls game to start with, I would recommend starting with Dark Souls. It's probably the easiest of the series. And I will give you the basic tips and tricks. And if you're a middle-aged man, if you're ready, if you're thinking about playing one of these Souls games, and I'm going to try and talk you into it tonight, start with Dark Souls. And that will give you the time to learn the mechanics, to learn the weapons and character building mechanics. And then you take that to the next game, it'll be way easier. I started with Elden Ring, and I spent my first 6 hours of the game running around like my head was on fire. Just, just killed by everything. I made every mistake. I met a merchant. I murdered him immediately. Had no idea how important they were. Didn't buy the things I needed because God knows I didn't have a fucking rune stone on me. I saw a Santa ass looking ass motherfucker and I was like, "You're dead. You're dead. You're dead." Dark Souls. Let's take a break. Now, Dark Souls is one of those games that has an allure. Even if you were never, ever in your life thinking about playing dark fantasy RPG. Do you know what those words mean? Do you know what dark fantasy RPG is? There's a allure to it. There's this meme culture is everywhere. Reaction videos are everywhere. This game came out in 2012. One of the things I was thinking is do I want to play a game with these old ass motherfucking graphics? I got the remastered edition. And, maybe graphics were way better in 2012 than I'm giving them credit for, but these are fine. These graphics are perfectly suitable. PS4 graphics, that's as good as they ever needed to be. You don't need to make them better than that. You just need to make them run more seamlessly at that level. That is what I'm looking for as a gamer. So you've heard about it. You've heard if you're a real gamer, you got to game this game. If you haven't gotten down with Dark Souls, you don't even game, bro. And I have a friend at work who he's a Souls born. There's quite a few people. I'm not going to say they've made this game their identity, but they deeply identify with it. There's 100,000 essays that are like, Dark Souls saved my life. Don't go hollow. In the game, if you die, you become a zombie. That's considered a hollow. Now, you can take medicine. You can eat some spells, to regain your humanity. But otherwise, that's called going hollow. And there's a lot of people that are looking, they just want to say something so profound. They want to say something so nice about this game that they're like, Dark Souls saved my life because they told me don't go hollow. The game wants you to win. Hard as it's not going to cut you any corners, but at the end of the day, the game wants you to win. So that's that piece. That's that's the don't go hollow piece. I hate that shit because that's like I was gonna kill myself. I had a gun in my head, and then I saw a poster of a cat hanging off a branch. It said "hang in there," and I was like, maybe I should hang in there. People have these platitudes that they cling to. I'm not gonna say you're being a pussy ass boy. I'm not gonna say that about you. Anyone who saves their life However, which way you might save it. Is it Jesus? Is it don't go hollow? Is it a cat hanging off of a motherfucking tree? However, you might save your life. I'm proud of you. Good for you. Good for you for hanging in there. But I've never heard some platitude that like was an epiphany where I was just like, oh, oh, I just figured it all out. But people will say that about Dark Souls, that it saved their life, that it is impossibly hard, that it is a gamer's game. Now, it is not. It's actually not that bad. It's just a pain in the ass to learn A, the mechanics, and B, how you build your character. Alright, as you kill people, you get souls, these soul points. You spend these points to make your character better. It is infinitely optionable. There's so many ways you could build your bitch. And I have a hard time with that because, there's all these people, like Elon Musk is notorious for having a bad build. I don't want to read. This goes back to the lore thing. I'm like, I gotta what? I gotta spend these points accordingly to use spells or to wield a sword. It's a bit much. It's a bit D&D. Now, if you're a D&D guy, if your whole life you've prayed that game would exist, that you prayed that a real life Zelda would exist, that's what this is. Here's my boomer tip. If you're middle-aged and you're thinking about playing this game, pour all of your points into life and stamina and dexterity. That's it. Now, as you pour them into life, you'll get these huge gains at the start. Same thing with vitality. It'll be a big-ass boost in your power bar. You'll see that green bar go far. Up to a point. And then once you get to that point, you start getting like, instead of getting a foot, you get half an inch. You're like, that was 20,000 motherfucking runes. That's all the fuck I got for 20,000 motherfucking runes. Now you gotta look at your weapons. Your weapons will tell you what you need to wield them, but it is not easily presented. It is for kids, but as a middle-aged, as one of the dinosaurs that roams the earth, you gotta push a button. You gotta look at the bottom of the screen. You gotta read X does this, Y does this, and it's not written like, hey, push this button, see what you need for the sword. It ain't written like that. No, it's written like, thine arbitrary of thine wielding of the unfondly fully, King James version of the Bible ass. It's probably not that bad. That's just how much of a boomer I am. But I recently learned how to do this in the middle of the game. And now I've got a way better weapon, and it makes the game much easier. These are my tips to make the game easier. Not easy mode, but reasonable. One of the things you learn while playing this game is it is fair, all right? It's not easy, but it is fair. It will give you the opportunity to defend whatever the fuck you gotta defend. But you are gonna have to fight for your life. And don't let that scare you off. Tip number 2, keep your motherfucking shield up. Not necessarily at all times, but learn to keep your shield up. There are moves in this game like defense and parry. These are moves you don't necessarily need in other games. If your life comes back, you can run, blah, 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 till you're down to like one hit, and then you hide You get all your life back. Easy mode. Dark Souls is not like that. Like I said, you are in a fight for your life. Now these NPCs, these characters you're fighting with, most of them have a very basic move set. They attack you, you block, and then you attack them. Wash, rinse, repeat. You can kill 90% of the bad guys you're going to run into. Now, if you don't know that, if you don't know to have your shield raised, you're going to get your ass beat. But if you understand the very simple mechanic of let them strike first and then strike them, it's a game changer. This will get you through the first fucking quarter of the goddamn game. And it will save you hours of being mad and wanting to throw your controller at the goddamn wall. Next tip is learn how to parry. Be a parry god. I'm not good at parrying. Never had to parry in a Zelda game. You can. I wish to God they had QuickTime in fucking Dark Souls the way they have in Breath of the Wild, but they do not. But they do have the parry system. Now, I bought Sekiro for the sole purpose of learning to parry, and I did not get good at it. All of these games, all of the Souls, I don't know about all of them, but the ones I've played, they are basically an open world game. Now, there's a path that you're kind of directed to take, but as you go through the path, you will find secret passages that basically make it a long, open, looping open world. That is one thing about this game. When you're looking like, where do I spend my time? You want to spend your time, at the very least, with someone who's passionate about whatever you're watching. I want to feel how much you love the X-Men in this X-Men movie. I want to get a boner off of your boner. I want to vicariously understand how dope this is because of how excited you are. This game is made by people that have a boner for making games. The level design is insane. If you play this, it's like, you're like, oh yeah, it's cool level design. But you play it and you're like, everybody else sucks dick. What the fuck? How come this isn't, like I say about video games, whatever becomes an innovation should, the moment after it's an innovation, just be standard. Everybody needs to just copy what everybody else is doing until we reach peak game. Whatever peak game is, this game has a level design that as you figure it out, as you unfold it, you're like, this is amazing. Like, this is so well thought out. They love this shit. The people that made this shit love this shit, and they made it. They made a fucking love letter. Now, parrying. Here's your parry tip. When they have their arm raised, parry. In Sekiro, they have some shit about like just before the blade hits you is when you hit the parry button. It's very hard to do. It's very frustrating. Characters move at different speeds in different games. In Dark Souls, the characters move pretty slow. So they'll go through an attack pattern. They'll do 1, 2, or 3 hits. And then they'll stop. And they'll do their next move. As that arm gets raised, as soon as it's raised, before they even swing at you, hit the parry button, boom, knocks them out, and you could do like 75% health damage. This is, it's not as hard as it looks. You can easily do this. Just watch the character's arm. They all have the same thing. Now the bosses, you cannot do this on. But, throughout the game, you will meet characters that if you don't know how to fight them, they are worse than the fucking bosses. And there will not be one, there will be 7 of them. And an archer and a wizard all shooting at you at the same goddamn time. So if you can learn this thing, and you'll know who to use it on, you use it on the knights. Alright? Zombies, easy peasy. Let them hit you, you hit them. But a knight, you gotta parry that shit. Once you learn this mechanic, ooh, Ooh, oh, you just fly through this motherfucking game. You know what? I apologize, guys, but I've looked down at my phone and this video game essay is already way longer than I thought it would be. But this is what I would say to you. If you play games, try Dark Souls. It's going to be rough, but that hardness makes it extremely fucking rewarding when you get it. And it's not as hard as you think it is. And you got this. That's the mantra you have to have. That's what you got to tell yourself. I got this. Guys, if you play games, if you've been looking for the game to play, what do I spend my time with? I just want to say to you, as a guy who hasn't finished the game, try Dark Souls. All right, y'all. Deuces.
It's RSQ on the beat.
Esmat Oja. Esmat again Oja yelo masunle o. Jésù gbà wá, ká má ṣe kó sọ́wọ́ ayé. Àwọn bọ̀bọ̀ tó ń bẹ nísẹ̀yìn wọn lè láyàn pa ẹgbẹ̀rin. Jésù gbà wá, ká má ṣe kó sọ́wọ́ ayé. Àwọn bọ̀bọ̀ tó ń bẹ nísẹ̀yìn wọn lè láyàn pa. Jésù gbà wá, ká má ṣe kó sọ́wọ́ ayé. Àwọn olóṣó tó ń bẹ nísẹ̀yìn gan lè láyàn pa ẹgbẹ̀rin. Jésù gbà wá, ká má ṣe kó sọ́wọ́ ayé. Àwọn olóṣó tó ń bẹ nísẹ̀yìn gan lè láyàn pa. Àwọn kan jẹ kólóòsì nítorí pé kán lè láyàn pa. Àwọn kan jẹ mólì